N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I have a couple of questions and just a comment. We heard at the GGF meeting earlier a discussion about the budgeting process and how it is not a true zero-based budget. And the reason for doing a zero-based budget, just to clarify why I asked for it, is so that you know what that number is, so that you know what each department actually needs. And then you go back and look at what's available. So that's the whole reason. We don't do it that way. We just kind of finagle it based on what might have happened last year or the previous years, but we don't truly know what's actually needed. So that's the reason. A clarification on the Green Bay packaging development agreement I'm requesting. I thought I read in there that the village was going to pick up the cost for traffic lights. And I was in the understanding that the village would not be paying for any kind of road work or any other amenities that would benefit this particular developer and this particular parcel. So I would like a clarification as to whether or not there are any dollars from taxpayers or otherwise that are going towards this agreement. And if that is the case, it certainly needs to come out of the consent agenda, and it definitely needs to be redone. I do not consent. On the Goldendale Trail, I think that since TID funds were already set aside, that you should probably use those rather than the ARPA dollars for the design. The ARPA dollars are few and far between. You've got maybe half a year to commit to them based on what happened, or the use of them based on what happened last year. Things popped up and we could possibly use the ARPA dollars in some other way. Another question is, again, please explain what Grey Wolf is doing with their contract for $55,000 for the Phase 3 in the village center, since we have not had the neighborhood meetings and we have an incomplete 2050 plan as a result of that. My opinion is that too much development decisions are made in secret meetings, and every time this board goes into a closed session, the taxpayers end up putting the bill for a traffic light or for properties that apparently have no reason for development. So I'm asking you to stop subsidizing development with our dollars. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Always after Melanie, taller than Melanie. Scott Heffley, W159 N10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. Couple things tonight. First of all, we're awarding testing services for well 12. I want to thank our engineer, Mr. Driscoll, and Matt, the director of Public Works, for bringing this forward. However, last meeting, I think we were told somewhere around 30 to 35 grand. Now I see $92,730. That seems like quite a bit more. And at least there was background information that says we now have fractures in the well casing or something. Mr. Warren probably knows what that means. I do not, but it doesn't sound good to me. So we're going to spend 100 grand to fix the well with biofilm cleaning and whatever else we're doing. We don't even have it in the area yet. We don't have a water tower in the area yet. We've got a lot of things going on here, but it's starting to sound expensive. Okay. I'm sure there'll be clarification later. So what do I say? The IG is getting expensive, right? Now, Richfield has said that we need to delay the project. What are we hearing? What was the thought process? 3 months, 6 months, or whatever? Why is it being delayed? Why is it being delayed? Why aren't they moving forward, when we're helping them? I don't know. So I'm going to disagree with Mr. Krecklow 100%. I sit on the Economic Development Commission and have for a couple of years, okay? We have not met for a long time. We had 3 meetings where we had Sarah from EDWC come down here, and she put together a presentation, which honestly I've seen before. It's out there, but they did their own spin on it. That's fine. That is not 123 hours of anything. I'm sorry, okay? We had about 4 hours, 4.5 hours of meetings. I sat at every meeting. I never missed a meeting. And I'm sorry, that's not 123 or 120 hours or whatever it is. If it is, It was about 4.5, 5 hours of work. I want to get paid like that consultant. 10 grand for 5 hours. Where do I sign up? I'm ready to go for that. Okay. That is not right. You can say I'm wrong. I sit on the commission. I never miss a meeting. I'm not wrong. I want to see detail. I sit on the darn commission. Show me the detail, not just what you think it is. Make them tell us what we're spending it on. We haven't met in 4 months. We have not met in 4 months. President Walter, 4 months we've not met.
Chair of that committee.
Okay, you're the president of the village board, right?
Chair of the economic.
Are you the president of the village board? Are you the president of the village board? I think you should make some effort in that regard, sir. Okay? The final thing I'll say is this is the
Can I
third
speak
time I'm
in
asking.
response?
The third time I'm asking,
President
my
Walter?
third village board meeting, I am asking my trustees or the village board president or whomever to call me. Okay? I'm not sending you emails. It is not my job to chase you or trustee Kaminsky or you, Mr. Walters. I have asked you publicly to call me. And apparently that's difficult because now we're 6 weeks in. I still don't have a call because there are things we need to discuss that I don't have. My 3 minutes would take more than that. So I'll keep asking. We'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input?
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road in Germantown. In no particular order, the GGF meeting tonight really presented quite a robust discussion about surveys and survey methodology. And our village administrator said that a survey is not intended to represent the will of the public, but rather represent only the thoughts of those who responded. So my question is, why is the lackluster response that was received for the 2050 plan taken as gospel and used as the justification for every spending initiative that this village has? That wasn't the will of the people, and I think you're hearing this week after week. It may be the same people that are coming here, but we're telling you, knock off the spending. That isn't our plan. Given that there are a lot of services that haven't been examined under RFP, one that I would like to see go out to RFP is our village legal representation and services. I'd like to see presentations to the public by those responding to the RFP, as this is a critical service to the village. I also ask that you vote against the $231,000 tonight for the approval of the Goldendale Trail Project Study. We just heard in the Finance Committee about what was thought to cost $750,000 is now costing $1 million for a water tower project. That $231,000 could go to that instead of borrowing. With the EDWC accountability and that, there are many more larger items in the budget to be concerned about and what details. Well, I think one of the things is if they are providing us reports of how that time has been billed, they can say whether they were in a closed session or not. And I think the use of closed session is really outside the legal bounds of what closed session is supposed to be. And specifically, the example of phase 1 and phase 2 of the Gray Wolf project. We clearly had those because we're now paying for phase 3, but the public doesn't know what phase 1 and phase 2 were. My assumption is, given at MyFest, there were 3 phases of a drawing shown for the village center, that though a trustee's firm made those drawings, that it probably was something based off of Gray Wolf feedback. And I think the public has a right to know what's going on, what's planned, and provide input. And maybe our budget goal should be to have a AAA rating like the school district, who's reined in their spending and are conscious of those things. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward at this time for citizen input? Is there anyone joining us via WebEx who'd like to join or have citizen input?
I would like to speak
Okay, if
in
there are
response to
no
several
other
things.
citizen input, Trustee Pieper, you wish to speak during citizen input?
How can I properly and legally respond to some of the citizens' comments?
How do you properly and legally respond?
Yes,
Village
because
attorney?
we're not allowed to respond to citizen
Not-
input.
That's not true. What it says is that each person is given a 3-minute opportunity, and be advised that there may be limited discussion of the information received, but no action will be taken.
Okay, so are trustees allowed to respond to citizens that speak during public comment?
Limited.
So everybody's looking at me now. So Trustee Pieper, I think that the answer is, in general, that's not recommended. Certainly, one of the things that when we talk about limited, sometimes there's a very quick and easy answer to something that's brought up, and you give the answer. Typically, that answer is, we'll look into it. We'll have something on the next meeting, something along those lines. If you're going to have a discussion about any item, that really is business of the body. And to have discussion, you really need to have an agenda that is posted that identifies that as a topic of discussion. So the answer to your question of how do you respond to individuals would be to either request that a particular item be put on the next agenda or a future agenda, or certainly you can individually respond to a citizen as well.
Okay, in that case, then I would request the two, or well, let's see, Scott Heffley and Sarah Larson. If you guys are so concerned with those topics, how about you contact us trustees and ask us to put it on the agenda for discussion instead of repeating yourselves over and over?
That's your comment?
That's my comment.
All right, thank you. That then should conclude citizen input. We'll go to consent agenda. Board?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to pull,
Well, first need a motion to approve, and
I'd
then
like
you can pull as part of that.
Dan, you need to stop pulling these. You know the answers to the questions that you're
Shut that
off.
asking. It's absurd.
Stop it.
No,
Please let the person that's been recognized speak. Trustee Miller, normally you would make a motion to approve the consent agenda, and then during discussion, you can remove the items that you'd like to
Thank you.
discuss separately.
I'd like to move approval of consent agenda items.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda items A through D. Discussion to that motion to approve. Trustee Jan Miller.
I'd like to pull items C as in Charlie and D as in David.
Okay. So we will now do a roll call vote for
no,
consent
no,
agenda
you
items
didn't- You
A.
didn't ask for
and B.
discussion. You didn't ask for discussion after that.
Further discussion?
Yes. Trustee Miller, why do you not find the answers to consent agenda before you pull them?
I have questions about the reports that are given that that I need more explanation on.
But you've attended
you.
all of these meetings in person. So
Not
what
necessarily.
questions are you actually seeking?
Those
you
we'll
could not
discover
have
as we
had
go through that
answered?
discussion on that topic. Any trustee has a right to
Trustee
remove
Walter,
whatever
I'm
they
gonna
want
be,
from
I'm gonna make
consent
sure you're
agenda
gonna
for
run
further
by Robert's
discussion.
Rules of Orders this meeting. You hear me? Robert's Rules of Orders.
Decorum, please. Or further discussion on a motion to approve items A and B. No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Hetson? Sorry. Trustee Warren, I'm looking at the screen here. Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Katz?
Aye.
Trustee Baum? Trustee Jan Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Pieper?
Aye.
Village President Walter?
By consent agenda, item C, which is resolution adopting the 2023 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, CMAR WDNR. Trustee Jan Miller.
Thank you. Are you going to take these, Matt, my questions? Thank you very much. So I have a couple of questions about this compliance maintenance annual report. When is this report actually due?
It's due at the end of the month, so the process
Oh.
works that we compile the report, we get the approvals that are necessary, including
Okay,
the resolution that's in the packet, and then we forward it to the DNR.
okay,
So it's an annual report.
right. So I just had a couple of questions that it doesn't seem like it's complete or I don't know where the numbers came from. On the second page or page 14 of the agenda, you have last year's ending balance of the CMAR. It's 489,000 something. And then you have additions to the funds and it says it could be this, or that, 52,000. How did you, where does that money come from? Is that interest or is that?
The financial aspects of this report, I'm probably not best suited to answer. Tim could
Tim,
come up.
yeah.
and I think Matthew is here if there's other finance related questions as well.
I was just curious if it was interest, if this was an interest bearing account or not.
So in that report, we disclose our equipment replacement accounts.
Oh,
One of those is the jetback restricted, of which we fund $30,000 a year towards the replacement of that equipment.
okay,
And then the water utility and the highway department bought our old sewer cleaner, do
okay,
hydro excavation work and storm sewer work. And they're in the fourth year of paying back the sewer utility $10,000 each for the purchase of that vehicle. And
okay,
then the balance is interest.
oh, okay. So we made some money. That's great. You might want to stay up there. I just had a couple others. And then in the future planning, you stated that, and this was done last month, so I don't know if you had this information or not, but it says the sewer extension to the village of Richfield and it's for $9 million and the year is 2024. But we heard that there's going to be some delays for the IGA or Richfield, water to Richfield. So is that a good year or should it be 2024?
At the time that
Yeah.
the report was done, we were still on track to start construction in fall.
Okay,
So the report will be updated next year if it doesn't come to fruition.
oh, so you can't change this right now?
No, it's already submitted pending the resolution.
Oh, okay. So,
And on that topic, I would just add that it was approved by the Public
Sure.
Works and Highway Committee
Yeah.
and advanced to the village board.
okay. Yeah, we're the last to get the approval. Okay. So, are we going to do an energy study? I'm concerned about this. Do we? It's on page 40. I'm sorry, 16. It says, has an energy study been performed for your pump lift stations? Is that something that you would normally do? It says no. It hasn't been, but is it something on the docket?
It's not something that is in our immediate future.
Okay,
We are in the process of analyzing and finalizing a facilities plan,
Mhm.
which would address upgrades and in turn could address some efficiency measures, but not a specific energy efficiency plan.
okay. And one of the criteria on page 18 is improve or maintain level of customer service. I know you guys are working real hard on that. But as it relates to, I know there were 3 incidents because it's on this page 20. But then when you go over to the actual maps, I'm sorry, actual charts, it doesn't take the lines to 2023. So you're kind of going back up, but not very slightly. So I just wanted you to be aware that there might be some updates on this going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if there's the
2027.
20,
On page 27,
I see your point.
Yeah.
Yes.
the line doesn't continue. So those were my questions on that. And since it's been through the board, but I just wanted you to make sure you were aware that there was a delay. It wasn't in here on the IGA. I think that's important. So, with that, I don't have any other further questions. Thank you.
Do you have
I-
a motion to approve?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve item C, resolution adopting the 2023 compliance maintenance annual report.
Motion made and seconded by, was that trustee Baum? Any discussion on the motion to approve? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not opposed, motion carries. Next item on consent agenda that was removed is item D, approval of the development agreement with Green Bay Packaging. Trustee Chan Miller.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is about the added items that seem to be on your list. Matt, you've got a list of, when we first saw this great development, we were very excited about it. It was totally private. And now there seems to be some reconfiguration. So I want to know what the economic impact for the village is on some of these items, and specifically the change of the road, the High Point Pass. And then one of the diagrams, there's actually a cutout of the property. Like it was Green Bay Packaging, and now it's like the village, I'm guessing. And it's the entrance to 48th Street, or whatever you want to call it, or a High Point Pass, or B Street. And additionally, it says the intersection of 48th and Holy Hill will be reconfigured and dedicated to the village. So then going forward, if it's dedicated to the village of Germantown, then we're responsible for plowing, et cetera, and road maintenance on that going forward in perpetuity. Is that what you're saying? And then finally, traffic signals. Now, since it would be our road, we're responsible for the traffic signals. So cumulatively, and on those questions, I wanted to know what the cost impact is and how it's being paid.
Sure. Well, first with the intersection, it is being reconfigured, especially the driveway into the gas station, for turning radius and traffic safety reasons.
Okay.
And there is a new kind of like triangle or trapezoid size property that captures further north into the property until the new kind of entrance to 48th Street branches off to the west that will be dedicated to the village of Germantown. And that reconstruction or reconfiguration of the intersection is being done at no cost to the village. That's being done by Green Bay Packaging and then dedicated to the village afterward. In regards to the traffic signals, remember, this is kind of taking place in tandem with the extension of High Point Pass or B Street south from Holy Hill Road to the train tracks. And it was envisioned that the traffic signals would be installed with our portion of that work, which was one of those TID funded projects that was previously approved. So the funding for the traffic signal infrastructure would come out of that project and not out of the Green Bay Packaging project.
Would that be TID 8?
I believe so.
7 and 8.
7?
7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Mhm.
And approximate cost? Do you have a clue?
Yeah, I mean, it would just be a guess at this point. It was included in our estimates for the TID 8 project when it was proposed, but I'd have to go back and look at what that, what that estimate was. So just overall, I would say the development is substantially private, like the board had requested. At one point, there was discussion of a frontage road kind of going up along the highway, a continuation of that B Street or High Point Pass that has been subsequently removed. They are doing the intersection reconfiguration at their cost and contributing it or dedicating it to the village. But the traffic signals, that is something that's included in our High Point Pass project.
And then have they gotten permission, or do we have some sort of clearance for putting that road over a portion of the wetland?
There isn't the road. Which road are we talking about, I guess?
Okay. It's the road going in,
Driveway?
the driveway.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
What,
some landfill, or there's some wetland that's being filled, and then there's an encroachment within the 25-foot setback of the wetland.
right?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure you weren't talking about Holy Hills South and that portion.
No,
But
oh,
yeah,
is
this
all-
development, that remains to be
fit.
seen.
Okay. So to be determined.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But that would impact Green Bay Packaging and that part of their
Their-
project.
their-
It's their
okay.
approval.
Okay. That's their approval. Okay. Thank you very much. That answers my questions. Appreciate it.
Move approval of item D as presented.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded by trustee Miller, made by trustee Baum.
No, Warren.
Oh, I'm sorry, trustee Warren. Sorry, Bob.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to poke you. in the
First
face.
Warren, second Baum.
No, first Baum, second Warren.
Here.
Got it. Any discussion on a motion to approve? No discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Katz,
Aye.
trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Jen Miller,
Aye.
trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper,
Aye.
Village President Walter.
Takes care of all items on consent agenda. That then takes us to new business. We want to start with new business item A, which is award of contract for public safety building needs assessment to Grafe PRA Moore in the amount of $63,000. Give us some more information, background on this new business item. We'll turn the meeting over to our Chief of Police, Mike Snow. Chief.
Thank you. A director of DPW, Director Mortwed, had put out a proposal for public safety building for a needs assessment. We did receive 4 responses on that. A committee was put together to review those responses. That consisted of the director, Administrator Krecklow, Chief Delane, and myself. After reviewing all proposals, we put forth the recommendation to award the proposal to Grafe, largely due to their experience with the Village of Germantown, their experience working with public safety buildings, and largely based on the timeline that they put forward compared to some of the other proposals that we've received. That proposal is for $63,000. And I know Mr. Paulus and his team are present to answer questions if you have any from them.
Make a motion to approve item A as presented for $63,000.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Rick Miller.
Yeah, question. This is, this was recommended, I believe, tonight to come out of ARPA. Is that correct? Right. And is that part of the proposal here?
Yes, that's correct. Further discussion? No, for trustee Jan Miller.
I noticed in the presentation that they're going to be looking at it looks like at least 3 different locations and do a presentation. When they do the presentation, when they come back after gathering all this information, are they going to present it to the committee or the board or this village board?
I
Let's
guess,
start with the public
It'd go
safety
through
committee.
public safety first, and then it would come to the village board for any approval.
Yeah, I would just add that that really is the call of the board, but typically it would go to public safety first, and then public safety would refer that to the village board.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on a motion to approve? No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Being a prior employee of Grave, I will abstain from the vote.
Trustee Ketz,
Aye.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Pieper,
Aye.
Village President Walter.
Aye. Item under new business is item B. Thanks, Mike.
thank you.
Brian Building Corp., agent for Green Bay Packaging, Inc., property owner located at North 128 West 21600 Holy Hill Road, certified survey map application to combine 3 parcels into one for construction of a new 270,000 square foot light manufacturing office facility. To bring us more information background on this new business item, I'd like to introduce everybody to our new associate planner, Jordan Yankee. This is his first official village board meeting, but he has been on board for a couple weeks, right?
Correct, yeah, 15th day today, so.
Oh, terrific. So you still got the price tag on you. You're so new. All right, well, give us more information on this new business item.
Sure, and I know some of you saw this last week, but a little bit of a condensed version tonight. So this is a certified survey map application for good timing in terms of dovetailing off of the Green Bay Packaging conversation earlier. But we'll go to the proposal here. So Brian Building Corporation, the agent for Green Bay Packaging, is requesting approval of this certified survey map, combining 3 parcels into 1 parcel for the construction of their new facility, actually at N128 W21600 Holy Hill Road, and that property is in the Holy Hill Gateway District. So here you'll see the site location. Right now, there's actually 3 technical parcels within that red box, comprising about 51 acres. And the proposal under the certified survey map is to combine the acreage and create 1 overall lot of 51 acres. The site is zoned M1. A little bit of background. The land use plan and rezone for the site were changed. The land use plan was changed to light industrial warehouse in 2023. And there was a rezone approved for M1 limited industrial in 2023. The site development plan and the conditional use permit were approved more recently, and that was in 2024, I believe, as recent as April. And this all set up this final kind of step of the entitlement process, approving that 270,000 square foot light manufacturing facility. Again, just a little bit of reiteration, it's about a 52 acre lot, 51.895 acre lot is being proposed for the Green Bay Packaging facility. And here you can see the CSM as proposed in the packet with that little cutout that was mentioned earlier for the dedicated right of way and that new entrance option into the site. There were some minor technical corrections for staff review from the village surveyor that we added in as a condition of approval prior to recording of the certified survey map. And with that, this was presented last Monday at Plan Commission, and the recommendation from Plan Commission was to approve the 1 lot certified survey map for the property, subject to the 2 conditions in the packet, which would be to address those minor technical corrections. With that, that's all I have, and I know the applicant representative is here tonight as well.
Make a motion to approve the certified survey map as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Not opposed? Motion carries. Next item under new business is item C, Bryan Building Corp., agent for Goldendale Road 4 LLC, property owner located at West 206 North 12880 Gateway Court, certified survey map for a property line adjustment to accommodate expansion of the Golden Pet manufacturing facility. Wants to give us more information, background on this new business item. We'll turn the meeting over to the Associate Planner, Jordan Yankee.
All right, thank you. So this is another certified survey map that was presented last week in front of Plan Commission. This is for Golden Pet Manufacturing's facility. And more specifically, again, this is Bryan Building Corporation, agent for Goldendale Road LLC, who's requesting approval of the certified survey map. And I guess in short, the certified survey map proposal is to adjust the property line between Golden Pet's property and the property to the north 10 feet, which you'll see in a minute here and what you probably saw in the packet. So here's the site location. That red box encompasses two parcels actually, and the property line, as you'll see on the CSM, is between them. And really what this is doing is to move the property line 10 feet north to accommodate an expansion for Golden Pet. A little bit of background again, the site development building plans approved in 2023 for Golden Pet's expansion. Subsequently, or fast forward, final building plans were submitted for review. There is an international building code that requires a certain distance separation from the building to the lot line. And so this CSM was submitted to move that lot line 10 feet north. You'll result with two lots, as you can see on the screen, Golden Pet Manufacturing and Capco. And then just quickly here, you can see the red box encompassing that 10-foot property line adjustment, I'll say. There were some other minor technical corrections that we wrote into the condition here from the village surveyor. And with that, this was presented again last Monday in front of Plan Commission, and the recommendation was to approve the two-lot certified survey map subject to addressing those conditions. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Make a motion to approve the certified survey map for Goldendale Road 4 as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Trustee Jan Miller.
Agent
yeah.
for Goldendale Road 4.
You're correct, though. The business is a Golden Pet.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jordan. Next item under new business is item D, Barley Pop Brewhouse LLC, 2024 through 2025 application for renewal of retail alcohol beverage license. Kind of start this out and give us some more some background and to initiate the process of this new business item, we'll turn the meeting over to our village attorney.
Sure. So some of you who have been on the board long enough will recall that we've done these occasionally from time to time. But basically what the statute requires is anytime an entity would be either non-renewed or potentially non-renewed, or if we were going to revoke a license, it requires a public hearing to do that. Basically, it provides due process rights to the applicant to have that. In this particular case, it is not a revocation. It is just potentially a non-renewal. That non-renewal is based on our code provisions, which say that effectively you get the remainder of a year that you have a license, and then one full license year thereafter, within which that you can continue to hold an alcohol license. But after that point, it's anticipated that that license would not be renewed under our code. This particular provision in our code actually dates back all the way to the last, certainly at least to the last recodification back in the 80s. It may even be before that, but I couldn't really readily tell if it went back that far. We did back, actually it was one of the first things I think I did, as I recall. We did change the code as it related to potentially revoking license, mid-year where they're not used and added those provisions. Similar provisions, but a little bit different. In both cases, really the idea is that you've got a set quota, a limited number of these types of licenses that can be issued, and you certainly don't want businesses sitting on them not being used when other individuals could potentially use those licenses. And so that's kind of the idea behind it. So with that said, the process typically is that we would have a little bit of a hearing. We have representatives, I think, from the Barley Pop, looks like maybe a couple that are here. And so we would just look to swear them in. I'll kind of ask some questions of them kind of initially just to kind of get the ball rolling. And then we'll have them provide any information they feel is relevant. And then the board can ask questions from there of them and then ultimately make a decision based on everything that you've heard this evening. So with that, anybody who is going to participate, come on up. You can just, I mean, either one is fine.
Just kind of tip it towards you so people can hear who are watching at home.
Yeah. So first we'll just have the clerk swear you in. Madam Clerk, are you ready to do that or you need me to handle that? Sure, no problem. So just raise your right hand for me. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yep. And just to start then, as I indicated, we'll just ask you some questions just to kind of get the ball rolling. State your name for the purposes of the record.
Jody Konzenbach.
Okay. And what is your relationship to the Barley Pop Brew House LLC?
Owner.
Okay. And you have a liquor license in the village of Germantown since 2009?
Yep.
Okay. And that business is no longer actively operating?
Correct.
Okay. And the information that we have says that that business closed on or about June 2nd of last year?
Yep. Closed in June 2nd for remodeling. That was the original plan.
Okay. And you then were subsequently granted a renewal license for the current license year thereafter. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you've applied for the renewal this year for the coming license year.
Correct.
Correct. And you, I know, because we've had some conversations, understand kind of the issue here is just the code provision that talks about the fact that non-operational businesses, typically we'd not renew those based on that.
Yes.
Okay. And I also know, because we've talked, that you have some information that you wish to present and proceed. So go ahead and do that.
Sure. As of June 2nd of last year, we closed the Barley Pop down for remodeling, which we immediately started working on demolition of the inside of certain things in there. Got through part of the demolition part as myself, partners, and employees. Two of them are here that helped with some of that stuff. We then started to look for contractors to come in, give quotes to what we wanted to do. That was a very lengthy process to even get anyone to return phone calls, come in, give us quotes. And then we have 3 apartments above the restaurant as well. We had one tenant disappear and leave, and we had to remodel that apartment above. So that took precedence that was probably October, I think it was. Took us a few months for that. We were able to find people to come in and redo that. Obviously, I also own another restaurant here in Germantown called The Precinct. So I'm the chef there as well. And then in February, I had some health issues that came about and was told I needed to lower my stress level. If you've ever worked in a restaurant, you can understand that. So at that point, me and my partners decided that it was time to make some different decisions. And the decision that we came to in February of 24 was that we wanted to put the Barley Pop building up for sale. So we went ahead with that. By March, we got it listed. So it's only been a couple months that it's been listed. We've had active interest. I did send out an email to all of the Board of Trustees. There was an attachment there from my real estate agent as well with the activity that's been going on there. It's pertinent. It's just very important in the sale of a building that's been a restaurant 30 plus years, might even be longer than that. I only got involved with the Barley Pop in 2018. But to sell the building, it would be very important to have that liquor license be coming with that for whoever's prospectively going in. Obviously as well, me and my partners have talked about, if the sale of the building doesn't happen within the next couple of months, then we may have to make the decision of either renting the establishment out or reopening it ourselves. I don't want a blighted building. That's what the precinct was before I came in and took that over and remodeled and did that. That's not my goal. That's not my partner's goals. That's not what we want to see happen. So that's why I'm requesting to be able to keep this liquor license based upon what we need to do in the decision of the next year. So.
So at this point then, if there are any questions from the board of Ms. Katzenbach, this would be the time to raise those.
Board? Trustee Baum.
Sure, certain clarification. Attorney Sajak, legally, they can keep the license until a year from now? It's not that they have to.
No, so what the code says is that you basically get one full year renewal after you've closed business. So you continue to hold the license from whenever you close until the end of that license year, which would be June 30th of that particular year. And then you get one full renewal year after that. So in this case, they stop business on June 2nd of 23. That would be then basically within that month, that last month, when that license would then roll over into the current year license. So they had that little bit of last license, all of the current license, and under our code, that would be when the non-renewal would take place.
So you're coming up on the non-renewal date.
Right.
Can I briefly speak on that too? When license renewals went out, that obviously I was completely unaware that this was even in the statute for the Village of Germantown, and our license renewals were sent out for Barley Pop and Precinct together. So as a business owner, was completely unaware till we came in with our filled out documents, turned them in to have them submitted. That's when we found out that all of this, and this is how this started to transpire.
Okay, so you are willing to find a tenant to rent it, to open it?
We have it listed for sale right now.
Yes, but you're willing to find a tenant to rent it, to open it?
If we don't sell it within a certain time period, yes.
Willing to open it yourself?
If I have to, yes.
Stress. So you have solutions to comply with the rules?
Right. I actually already had contacted when this all started. I said, do I need to open it back up? I said, I'll open it back up tomorrow. I said, I can. I said, everything's still in there.
Okay, so if she goes through with this, renting it, opening up herself, selling it, any one of those three solve the problem, she can keep liquor license?
We can extend it for another year based on what her intentions are for the building, or what her known intentions are, either to sell it, to rent it, or to open it back up herself, based on not wanting it to be a vacant building and in the downtown area, or old downtown area of Germantown. So this board, based on the ordinance as it stands, that license would normally not be provided, and we can choose to say we're willing to grant another year for 2024.
So with her express intent of doing this, we can say, yes, go ahead and
yes,
keep the license. What do we need to do that? Make a motion?
Well, right now we're in the midst of a hearing, so if there's any other additional questions that anybody would like to ask in regards to it, that would be the first rule of order, and then from that, then that decision can be made. You would close the hearing then, correct?
Right. Yes, we'd look to formally close the hearing and then formally take up the application before you.
Right.
Other questions?
Trustee Warren.
Do we have a backlog of businesses needing or wanting liquor license?
We received an email about maybe a week and a half ago, inquiring on how many we had. Two businesses entertaining the idea of coming into the shopping district where the Dollar Tree and the Aldi's is at, as one location, but the other location undisclosed, as to how many licenses we currently have. I think it's very important to also note that the license does not belong to the business, that the person that would be rented to would have to apply. So the business, the license is not with the business. It is the applicant has to apply for it. It has to go through the police department. A background investigation has to be conducted. So I just want to I think that's very important to note.
I guess where I'm going.
Change any agent, if a business is sold, they would put in an application for change of agent. So
Well, and the LLC and everything has to be registered with the Department of Revenue. So in the event that Jody would want to, rent the, to a tenant, they would have to go through the process to apply. It's not transferred to them. So the
Fully
current
aware.
license.
I've had to
being
do it
held-
twice.
What's that?
I said fully aware. I've had to do it twice before. I understand that.
So just so that our trustees are aware, they have to apply for it. And again, that agent and the Department of Revenue has to have a valid seller's permit, business name, and all of that.
So I guess in summary, are we saying no to any businesses as we wait for this to pan out?
We have not had to decline or deny anyone. Currently, we have reserve licenses available, which is much more expensive. What Jody has is a regular license, not the reserve. But we have not had to turn anyone away at this time, no.
All right, thank you.
One besides what would be with the Barley Pop, is there an additional one based on Coolbert Junction?
Correct. We have one that was surrendered based on an email, an advisement that they were not having any intentions of surrendering at the end of the June 30th deadline. So that would be one regular available, and then the additional licenses are those reserve licenses.
Any other questions? Trustee Jan Miller?
I just wanted to say, Jody, it's not an easy business, and I just wish you luck, and I hope that you get it sold and Germantown reopens the Barley Pop and you find a good resident for it.
That's our hope too.
Yeah.
We have one promising right now, so.
Fingers crossed.
Yep.
Good luck to you.
Any other questions? Close the hearing?
Just confirming, Trustee Pieper, any questions?
Trustee Pieper, any questions?
Sorry, I'm having issues with WebEx and not having video. No, I have no questions.
Okay.
So with that, unless anybody objects, we'll go ahead and close the hearing.
Okay, hearing's closed. Back then to new business.
I'll move approval to extend the license for I shouldn't say that, to approve a license for the 2024,
Second.
2025 year for the Barley Pop Brew House LLC.
And I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Don't need roll call for that, correct? Okay. Trustee Rick Miller.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment, and Jody, thanks for being in the village and working hard on that. I hope you sell it. If you don't, I know you've got some plans behind it, and I think that it will be easier to do all those with the license at hand versus trying to acquire one afterwards. So I think you have support. We'll see you in the vote in about 30 seconds.
Right, and for also for your patience of going through this process. I know that it was additional worries that you really don't need, but I think in the end you understood why, and I appreciate that your patience and willingness to go through it with us. Further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not opposed. Motion carries. Thank you so much for coming. Next item under new business is item E, resolution to approve a sewer user rate increase. Board? Oh, I'll take some discussion on that. We'll turn the meeting over to our Director of Public Works to give us some background on it.
All right, so just a little background on what got us to this point. First of all, there's a desire to be proactive with any potential rate increases so they could be incremental over time. So with that in mind, Ehlers was hired back in 2023 to conduct a sewer rate study. And they were asked to evaluate 3 different options. One of those options was an every other year rate increase for a period of 10 years. The second option was a decrease in rates over a 5-year period without any capital expenditures. And then the third option they were asked to evaluate was no rate increase over a 5-year period, but continuing with capital expenditures. And when they did that analysis, and it's included in the packet, you can see their report, there was really only one viable option, and that was to do that every other year rate increase over a period of 10 years. When you look at the other 2 options, option 2, which was the rate decrease for 5 years, cash flow in the fund was negative in 2026, and then the fund itself was negative in 2033. In option 3, which was the no increase but continuing with capital spending, cash flow was immediately negative, and the fund was negative in 2030. So both very poor financial outcomes there. With that in mind, we took the study to the Utility Advisory Committee to get initial feedback. They provided feedback and supported option 1 unanimously and referred it to the Public Works and Highway Committee. The Public Works and Highway Committee has now voted on it unanimously as well and is forwarding it to you for your approval. The rates would go into effect with first quarter billing in 2025.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution to approve the sewer user rate increase.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by trustee Baum. Discussion on the motion to approve, trustee Rick Miller.
We need to clarify the option. I believe it should be option 1.
Is that? okay?
Alternating rate increase over a
Motion is
10-year
what
period.
what you mean. Is that your intent of the motion is to
Yes,
forward with option 1?
yes, my intent of the motion is to use option 1,
Okay.
4% every other year.
That is okay with the second.
Got it. Further discussion on the motion? Trustee Cutts.
I just have a question, Matt. I don't know if you know the answer. I guess what's the purpose of doing 4% every other year versus doing 2% each year to make it a little easier on the residents?
I think either way, they're viable options. The 4% gets us, some additional funds into the account more quickly. And then the pause year allows us to reevaluate things. So there are like capital projections built into the study, and those can change over time. So you can take those off years to look at your capital projections. Maybe they go up and you need a bigger rate increase in subsequent years. Maybe they actually go down and your rate could be less in future years. So I think those are kind of 2 lines of thought on it.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion?
I do have one thing.
Trustee Pieper.
I don't understand why we are anticipating to increase rates on our residents without even knowing what the future looks like. If rates could go down, then why are we planning to increase them every other year? If they could possibly go down, then why are we doing this approval to raise rates every other year?
I will say with the recommendation from the Utility Advisory Committee and from the Public Works and Highway Committee was to commit to just that first year and then to do that every other year evaluation. So I think that's to your point.
Yes, that does clarify, but can we clarify the motion? Are we raising rates every other year by 4% with this motion? Or is it just the next year?
If I can interject, the resolution that's in the packet is only for this particular, this coming year. And that's that's what is, I think, the controlling factor, the documentation. The way that I take the motion is that, as the Director of Public Works mentioned, this would be implemented, the 4% increase would be implemented in first quarter of 2025. And we would be, staff is directed to look at that 4% increase every other year going forward, and reporting back to the Utility Advisory Committee and the Public Works Committee.
Further discussion? No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Ketz,
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller, Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Baum, Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Pieper,
No.
Village President Walter.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item under new business is item F, resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures from proceeds of borrowing.
Finance Director.
Okay. Mr. Usening, you're up.
In your packet is a resolution to reimburse funds for Tower 3 that the construction or the project will be starting this summer. What we decided to do instead of going out for a traditional bond is to bond with Wisconsin DNR, where they offer a significantly lower interest rate. We're projecting the interest rate to be around 2 to 2.25% compared to what we get in the public market. Part of that application process is a resolution of reimbursement, which is in your packet.
Make a motion to approve the resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures from proceeds of borrowing as presented.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by whom?
Trustee Warren.
Trustee Warren. Discussion on a motion to approve. Any discussion? Trustee Jan Miller.
Just that this resolution passed on GGF.
All right, thank you. Further discussion? No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Ketz,
Aye.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Rick Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Pieper,
Aye.
Village President Walter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item under new business is item G, award contract for Goldendale Trail Design Study Report and final design for Phase 1 segment between High Point Pass and Goldendale Road to R.A. Smith of Cedarburg, Wisconsin, in the amount of $230,920. Some more information background on this new business item. We'll turn the meeting over to our village engineer.
Good evening, trustees. This item before you.
I got it.
There we go. Good evening, trustees. This item before you is for the recreational trail along the environmental corridor through industrial and residential districts near Holy Hill Road to the Menominee River near Main Street. This design includes, or this work includes the design on the MMSD parcel that the board had approved for transfer of ownership in February, and that followed the trail plan approval in January. The proposed schedule is to begin the design study report this summer with a draft in fall that will be shared with the Parks and Rec Commission, in addition to the Public Works and Highway Committee. The Phase 1 schedule for the area west of Goldendale Road has preliminary plans this winter and final plans for advertisement in spring. The Phase 2 work, based on the design study report, will apply for grant funding from the DNR Recreational Trails Program in spring of 2025. So that deadline is May of 2025. So that's what we would look at for the phase 2. Staff is discussing this item to approve the design study report for phase 1 and phase 2. And then present this to the committees. And then once we're through, like, I'm going to call it a gate to get through the committees, then we would look at completing the preliminary design. Once we have concurrence from Public Works Highways Committee and the Parks and Recreation Commission. And my understanding is there's budget that's been allocated for the phase 1 trail construction in the amount of approximately $700,000. At the Public Works and Highway Committee, there was a question raised about the construction cost. So staff has reached out to communities with boardwalks, that's including Madison and then Barrington in Illinois. In addition to staff reaching out with the recommended consultant. And we are estimating $120 a linear foot for the boardwalk with a contingency of approximately up to $150 total per linear foot. And then for the asphalt, we're estimating $60 per linear foot. And then with a contingency, I'm using that estimate for about $75 per linear foot. So based on those route options in the trail plan, I'm estimating phase 1 between asphalt and boardwalk between $300,000 to $600,000. And that's within that 700 that we've identified as an allocation that's been established. Again, that's depending on the length of the boardwalk compared to the asphalt over that 4,100 feet of that design. And then based on the route options that in the trail plan, that estimate for the with the contingency for the phase 2 is an additional 800 to 1.5 million. So again, that's depending on the length of the boardwalk and the route compared to the asphalt. And again, as part of the authorization, grant applications will need to be generated for this. And then in summary, staff was pleased with the competitive proposals. And Ari Smith staff is present to help answer any questions that trustees may have.
I'll make a motion to approve the award of contract for Goldendale Trail Design as presented for $230,920 for discussion.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, trustee Baum.
So can you run through the numbers in more depth for me? So we got $750,000 that we pulled into this from the TIF district. Then on top of that, we're going to spend $230,000 on design fees, which would allow us to go out for grant funding, which could get us another, how much? Grant funding.
Yeah, the grant funding would be for the phase 2. And that estimate that I came up with was 800,000
to $1,500,000
to $1,500,000 for 2 miles of work.
We would get grant money to do that work.
We'd apply for it.
We would apply for the grant money, and my understanding is typically it's reimbursed.
And so the only thing that is not accounted for is the $230,000 design fee. Because we did the 750 through the TIF was for the first segment.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the $230,000 design fee, what that includes is listed on page 159, 182 of the packet.
Yep.
So the design study report is the first item for 63,000. And there's if authorized items in the amount of 50,000, which includes additional survey, construction, and administration. So those are not necessarily going to be incurred, but potentially could be on a time and materials basis. So that speaking specifically to the 230, there's the allocation, I think it's listed in the staff memo of the 210 that's being allocated through the ARPA account.
So 210 is coming from ARPA. Of the 230?
Of the 230, yeah, and then there's another 20,000. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, and
Or maybe I misspoke that the entire 210 may
there,
not be.
there may be, our goal is to utilize the ARPA funds that are available. The finance director went through at GGF earlier this evening that since the costs for the public safety building feasibility study came down, there's some money available to that. We got proposals in last Friday for the impact fee study. I think that may be a little bit lower than what we had anticipated out of ARPA funds. So we may be able to cover the entire, this entire amount through ARPA funds.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Jan Miller.
So Kevin, this is quite the endeavor here. And it seems to be pricey because of the boardwalk. So phase one, you're just doing the design study. Is that correct?
No, the first task is to do the design study report and then bring it back to the Parks and Rec Commission, in addition to bringing it back to the Public Works and Highway Committee. And then we would move into the preliminary design and final design.
Okay, so 2 and 3.
So there's,
So on
yes,
this page 184 of our packet, you've got Goldendale preliminary final design phases 1, 2, and 3. So you got in the gold, or that's what color I'm calling it. It adds up to, with all the tasks 1 through 5, 162,538. Is that where you're at?
correct.
Okay. So do we have to do everything in the gold area in order to complete the study and have a plan? Or is there more?
This is the approved, this would be the approved amount based on a time and materials basis. The 160.
Or so are you
So
doing,
the design study report
right?
would cover phase 1 and phase 2. And then this area would also cover the preliminary and final design for phase 1.
Okay. When you're speaking of phase 1, are you just talking about a segment?
Yes, the area west of Goldendale Road,
Okay.
where the MMSD parcel is, that would be transferred.
So it's just really covering MMSD?
Pardon?
It's just really covering that MMSD property?
From
Phase one.
Goldendale Road, there's a parcel immediately adjacent to Goldendale Road to the west.
Yep.
And
Then-
we would evaluate how to get through there. And we've been in cooperation with that property owner.
Yeah.
And they've been willing to work with the village staff on the alignment, different alignments to get through their parcel to connect into that MMSD parcel. So ultimately it can be consistent with the trail plan and then connect into High Point Pass.
So are they going to do it? They just want to put the trail, just bear with me. I'm going to call it the MMSD wetland property, right? That we got. You're just going to put one trail through it on the south side and that's it? Is that what this cost is?
Yes.
Yes.
You're doing stuff upwards and right off the parking lot that we're going to install. So you're doing stuff over there too. It's not just one path. It's encompassing.
We've seen,
Yeah.
what was proposed initially.
If I can kind of add, this is a piece of what the board adopted in the recreational trail plan earlier this year that would include a trailhead at High Point Pass. So that is another project that's going forward as well. That would basically go from Holy Hill Road south past what's Holy Hill Storage. And then down near the railroad tracks, there's places where you could provide access to this property that And that would be the trailhead for this recreational trail that would go from there southeast along the tracks. One of the things we have to determine through this particular consulting contract is how to get that last couple hundred yards from the MMSD property to Goldendale Road. There's a couple of alternatives, and as the village engineer mentioned, the property owners there have been very cooperative in talking with us, and they're open to some different options. And then the trail plan also includes continuing on further to the southeast along the tracks all the way down to Maple. And there is another MMSD parcel that we've discussed in some previous meetings. It's the former lamb farm that MMSD has acquired that they would be willing to transfer to the village for a second trailhead. And then allowing connection to Freistadt, and then as the trail plan shows, eventually down to the Main Street area. So it would connect the northwest part of the village down to the village center area. There also are opportunities for some additional amenities on that MMSD property. There are some wetlands out there, definitely some areas that are very wet. There's also a significant amount of high ground that's pretty dry. And I think would meet one of the other goals that was discussed extensively in the 2050 plan was to try to preserve some of the green space, that as the village grows, that there was a desire by the residents to try to preserve some of the green space and allow access to it. So, you know, there are the planning for maybe some hiking trails, some nature trails is not part of this particular contract, but is something that could be done in the future. I think the key is to first get the access, and then we can look at other types of activities or amenities that could be added to that green space out there.
So I just want to be clear, the area or the trail that we're talking about in this instance is 4,100 square feet long. Is that right?
4,100 feet. Yep.
4,100, not square, right. 4,100 feet long, which is less than a mile.
Right, from Goldendale to High Point Pass as part of phase one.
Less than a mile.
Correct.
There's no parking lot in this. There's nothing. It's just the trail for less than a mile. That's it, for 700,000.
You know, at this point, what is before the village board tonight is the design contract.
Right.
So that includes some things like wetland delineations and survey work that need to be done, not only for the trail, but for the parking lot access and those other items. So in the trailheads. So, you know, there is $700,000 that's available through the tax increment
Right.
district.
Right.
We will be applying for grant funds to try to match this. It is not an inexpensive, it's not like putting a trail on a road, you know. That's a much less expensive alternative. This is going through areas that are undeveloped, that are wild. And
Wetlands.
there's some, it'll have to pass through some wet areas. But oftentimes to access the more natural areas, it is a little bit more expensive and it does require more work to get to that. So,
I understand that. We took a look at this because in GGF, we always review the ARPA funds, and on the second page, which is not committed, second page of the ARPA fund sheet that we get in GGF, there was a line item for Goldendale Trail. And last month it was 140,000, and this month it was 210 or 230, right, Rick? 210. So the money that you need, the money that we all need to make this successful is really based on not only the contribution from the TID, but also the grants that we would be applying for, and also permission from the railroad. Is that correct?
The design study report is going to evaluate the various options that were identified in the trail plan. One of those options is crossing the railroad, and then there are other options that did not cross the railroad for the
At all.
phase one portion.
Okay.
But there will be a railroad crossing to get from Holy Hill Road area down to the Main Street near the
Oh.
Menominee River. So there will be a railroad crossing at some point. Where that crossing is has not been identified, other than what's been in the trail plan. So that's why we're looking to have a design study report, so we can have further dialogue of what the cost impacts are, and the benefits or the drawbacks.
So my point was, we have, I don't know how long you've been here, but we've come up short in our budget on for the last couple of years.
This is irrelevant to the budget. This is ARPA funds and this is part of the TID. It has nothing to do with the general fund budget.
Right. That's fine. But we're always looking for money for projects that come up toward the end of the year. It's June. And if we're doing this Golden Dale Trail based on the design money that we put in the TID, I believe that we should be using the TID money first to do the investigation or survey or survey, whatever you want to call it, because it's assured. That money is assured and it goes to the Golden Dale Trail. If there are so many obstacles we don't know yet, I'm hopeful that everything will go through just fine. And you've looked at it and it looks like it's going to go through just fine. But if we can't finish this Golden Dale Trail down to, I heard somebody say Main Street. Did I hear that?
Yes.
Okay, Main Street. If that's a 15-year project or a 5-year project, why can't we just use all TID money? That's my point. I think we need to take the ARPA money and hold on to it for other projects that come up.
When is it?
Can I speak?
Sunset? I have a question first and then I'll recognize you, Trustee Pieper. When do we have to use the ARPA money by?
The ARPA funds expire at the end of the year, so we have to have them. The federal terminology is committed, which means we have to have an executed contract, and that work on that contract has to begin in a reasonable period of time. So, we are getting down towards the end of that time period.
Trustee Pieper?
Well, Steve just pretty much told me everything I was about to ask, and it's coming from Trustee Miller, who is completely against TIDs and TIFs, is saying that that is the most trusted funding when we have ARPA funding, which is guaranteed. That is the funding that is guaranteed. ARPA funding is guaranteed, and we have to use it 6 months. Money is not used for these situations.
The TID was set up, was there
Trustee
anything
Miller?
else?
Yes.
Okay. The TID was set up to put aside $700,000 or $750,000 for the Golden Dale Trail.
As a starting point.
And
you're
that
correct.
As
can
a starting
definitely
point.
be used. Guaranteed funds?
So this is a good use for it,
No,
for the
it's
study.
not.
That's
Sat there
your
and
opinion.
studied TID and TIF funding for how long? Then you should know this already, Jan. You've been a trustee for how long?
Trustee Pieper, I
Further
think,
discussion. Trustee Rick Miller.
Yeah, question, and I asked a lot of questions at Public Works about this as well. There was one though, as I was reviewing this, is there is some land acquisition that goes along with this. Where would that fit in with the funding? Would that go with the entire trail plan with the TID?
That depends. And we really need, the answers from this analysis in order to determine that. As the village engineer mentioned, there's a couple of different options for how we can go that last couple hundred yards across that private property. Some MMSD, we have met with the property owner and MMSD. MMSD is interested in either acquiring a portion of the property or an easement to the property for their purposes for flood control. And depending upon which route the trail takes and what MMSD is able to work out with the property owner, I think there's a potential that the village may not have to pay anything. And
Yeah, there's a potential that MMSD would use their funding for that portion of it.
yes, and you know, I'll say this publicly, as I've said it to the MMSD folks, and as long as it also achieves their goals, you know, they are supportive of the idea of using their Green Seams program to expand and grow the village's recreational trail program. So, you know, our goal as village staff is to try to utilize MMSD money whenever we can to get access to the property and get either easements or right-of-ways or actually acquiring the property.
It's already been done, which east of Goldendale.
Correct.
The property that's on the Lamb's farm and what follows the small river that runs.
Yeah, we just had this area just west of Goldendale that's unknown right now, undetermined.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. And it follows the same, when you're acquiring a right of way, you get appraisals, you do a little negotiation, all that stuff.
Yeah, and MMSD has a well-established process, and you know, and they're very interested in working with this property owner. And from what we were able to tell from the meetings with the property owner was interested in working with MMSD.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion, trustee Jan Miller.
I just wanted to, you know, put a suggestion out there. I do see, I'm not against this trail. This is a great trail, but how you use the money, I think, is critical. And I think it should come out of the TID where it is located, because that's what the money was for. Then the grants will come. You'll apply for the grants and the grants will come. And the ARPA money, we have a lot of trails that that are in the process at Park and Rec that are close by. In addition to that, we have Division Road being made. Some of that money could be used for just getting bike trails on either side of Division Road. There's plenty of places where we can use the ARPA money immediately that we're actually building on, that we don't have to acquire land. So that's what I think would be a better use of the ARPA money.
I would, if I could just point out, I would be concerned about trying to utilize ARPA funds for expenses related to reconstruction of Division Road, because I'm not sure, I don't believe that we'll be able to have that under contract by the end of this year.
Further discussion. Right now, the motion as was made was to use ARPA funds, correct?
No.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Doesn't say.
Motion was to approve the contract for the Golden Dale Trail Design Study in the amount of $230,920 as presented.
Correct.
Okay. And as presented would be through the use of the ARPA funds.
That's what it was presented as.
Okay, got it.
Trustee Warren has a question.
Trustee Warren.
So when I was in the business evaluating proposals, I always looked for proposals that were close, relatively close. That told me that the proposers, the consultants, understood the scope. It was pretty clear for them. Now, if you just look at the dollar amount, the dollars are relatively close. They're within 4%. But if you look at the hours, they are about 43% different, which makes me wonder, do the consultants, are they bidding on the same proposals? Now, either firm, in my opinion, is very competent to do the work. But Kevin, I just wanted to see if If you looked at that and you're comfortable with that difference and how it actually compares to the engineer's estimate also.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Trustee Warren, for that question. I noticed the discrepancy in the memo, not accounting for the hours. I did notice that difference that you're referring to, and that difference is accounted for in tasks 7 and 8, which are construction administration and completing additional survey. Those costs by the consulting firm that had more hours and a higher cost. There was about 240 hours for task 7 and 240 hours for task 8. And those corresponding costs were $30,000 each. The task 7, as proposed for R.A. Smith, was $26,000 for task 7 and $20,000 for task 8. But I unintentionally, and I apologize, I excluded any hours associated with those two tasks. So if those 240 hours by 2 were added in there, that's just under 500 hours. So that would bring the 1068 and the 1680 much closer.
If you also look at the rates, this also made me question their understanding of it. Graith, if you do the math, they're about $143 per hour, whereas R.A. Smith is at $216. Now, those are really different types of people, professionals that are doing that type of work. So again, you're comfortable with that disparity?
Well, again, that discrepancy, I think, is due to, that's my fault for not including the reflective hours for task 7 and task 8
Okay.
in that hourly total. So I would increase that hourly total. I haven't done the math right now, but I think that closes the gap on the hourly difference.
Okay.
And I am comfortable with the work that R.A. Smith has done here in the village and where I've worked with them professionally.
Right, I don't question that. It's just that they understand the scope as proposed in your RFP.
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
How do they compare to do you have an engineer's estimate on this work?
The engineer's estimate is what we budgeted for, the 700,000, and that's where we're basing this on.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Trustee Cutts.
I just have a question that's semi-related to things that came up. I understand we're just voting for the proposal. The money that's in the TID for Goldendale, if we get grant money that covers what we need, can the money that's in the TID just be reallocated elsewhere, or what happens to that? Just for my reference point.
If the project is complete and the full $700,000 is not utilized for that purpose, it would be, I guess the first option would be if there are other projects that have already been approved for TID 7, it could be used if there are any cost overruns on those other items. If there's not, then basically any cash that's left over would go to the bottom line for the TID and allow the TID to close a little bit earlier. Or and TIDs can only close on a calendar year basis, or after the TID is closed, there typically is some cash that's left over, and then that's distributed to all of the taxing jurisdictions proportionally.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Further discussion? No further discussion? Do roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren. Trustee Cutts.
Aye.
Trustee Baum.
Aye.
Trustee Jen Miller.
No.
Trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper. Village President Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is item H, award of additional well testing services for well number 12 to CTW Well and Pumps for an amount not to exceed $92,730. Give us more information on this new business item. We'll turn the meeting back over to the Director of Public Works.
All right. First of all, I wanted to thank you for taking this item directly. We tried to arrange for a special Public Works meeting earlier tonight, but it didn't work for quorum issues. But in order to facilitate the investigation and analysis for well 12 to continue, we'd like to get your approval tonight. So just kind of background on where we're at and what we're looking at here in the proposal. Additional testing of well 12 identified issues that needed some further investigation. So we, about 3 weeks, a month ago, we did an initial round of cleaning and investigation. And that identified issues with production, like volume of water that the well is producing, and water quality. It identified that there's 3 fractures, and these are fractures, I guess, in like a good sense. They're just voids in the bedrock where water is being produced from. But there's 3 different areas that are producing water that have potentially different levels of production and different water quality. And in order for us to properly scope additional well rehab efforts and then potential, other like mechanical things like well lining, we need to understand the water quality specifically out of each of the fractures potentially, and the production that we can get out of each of those fractures. So the quote that we have from CTW that's attached here is for some phased additional testing that we would like to do. There is a big number. If you look at the total of the testing services, it comes to, I want to say $92,730. And I would look to get your approval on that full amount tonight. But again, this is a phased approach. So if you look at that proposal, there's phase 0 through 8, I believe, or phase 5, I guess. Yeah, 0 through 5. What we would do initially is release them to do the work on phases 0 and 1. And it's potential after each of these phases that we have enough information to make our decisions where we don't have to release them for the additional phases. Going all the way through the proposal and spending that full $92,000, almost $93,000 would be kind of a worst case scenario where we need to specifically investigate every fracture for production and for water quality. So I'd be happy to take some questions if there are any.
Jan Miller.
Is this the well that there was a study with surrounding residential properties?
Yeah, this is well 12 on Rockville Road.
Yeah. And wasn't it supposed to be a deep well to begin with?
It was originally supposed to be a deep well, but they were able to get good production out of the well at much shallower depths. So it was determined, this is going back a couple of years now,
right,
to not drill as deep.
So now, does it look like, can you ascertain now if the deep well will be to our advantage, or do we have to do all this testing first?
So the 3 fractures that are producing water, there's 2 that are relatively shallow and 1 that's toward the bottom of the well. The first couple phases that we'd like to do are to see if we can get the full production that we need out of that bottom fracture. And we do know from some of the testing that was done several weeks or a month ago that that is actually the best water quality down there too. If we can get the best production, get the production that we need out of that lowest fracture, then we don't have to consider the lower, or I guess higher fractures for our future production, and we could even potentially line those off. And those are more likely to be the levels at which they'd affect some of the residential wells.
Right.
But I don't want to commit to that. We
Right.
need to make sure that we can get the production out of the well that we need to serve the area. So the first step is to look at that lowest level and determine the water quality that we're getting there and the production that we can get, and then kind of move up.
And if the water in and of itself is better, does that mean that we would do less treating of the water to get it to our
Yeah, it's
industrial
potential that there's less treatment required initially in terms of a rehab, and potentially longer term over the life of the well.
Okay.
Trustee Warren?
Looks like well 12 is our poster child here in the village. So is it the design? Is it the location? Could we start to see these issues with our other wells? And then the last part of the question is with 4 behind schedule, are we compromising volumes in any way as we're going through this with 12?
Volumes available to customers? Yeah, no, I don't think so at this time. And the first part of your question, sorry if you could repeat that.
That's, I guess, why is this happening to this particular well? Is it design? Is it, I hope it's an anomaly. And I hope this doesn't spread to other wells, because this is a pretty big hit that we're taking.
Yeah, I think it is an anomaly, and I'd say it's most likely correlated to the fact that the well was idle for a couple of years. And that, with the mixing water qualities from the different fractures that I talked about, produced the conditions that we're having to deal with. If it had been active and was receiving continuous treatment as the other wells are, this would not have developed.
Is there a motion?
There is not.
Micah?
I will make a motion to
I've been waiting to
award,
speak.
award the additional well testing service for well 12 to CTW in the amount not to exceed $92,730.
497.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Trustee Peeper?
490.
Thank you for finally recognizing me. Who initially made this determination about the well?
I can provide some history and background on this. The village has for a long time been aware that we needed an additional well. I mean, this dates back to before I started with the village in 2017, that we'd had some conversations with the DNR that, especially when Gale Foods comes onto our system, that we don't have adequate reserves in case of emergencies. Or like 2 other wells going down, that they want to make sure that we have adequate well capacity. So we had been looking for a long period of time for a location for an additional well. When we initiated TID number 8, and we were negotiating the development agreement with Zilber in 2017. Part of that agreement was they dedicated a few acres to the village for a well up on Rockfield Road. And they did that. We were able to acquire the property for the well at no cost to the village. And we had done some testing initially that we were fairly certain that we'd be able to find water at that location. As has been previously mentioned, the initial plan was that this would be a deep well, about 1,200 feet down. However, when drilling commenced at about 400 feet, there was so much water that was being produced that the engineers and our previous public works director came back to the board and reevaluated and recommended that we stop drilling at 400 feet. And the benefit to that to the village is that water that's drawn from 1,200 feet typically contains radium that requires some additional treatment and processing and at a significantly higher cost to the water utility users. So the village board approved moving forward with it at 400 feet. However, all of the discussion and analysis and study that went into that delayed the construction project significantly. And I think that's what led to some of the issues that we're facing now. Then when we did get started up again and moving back on to construction, that we found that there was some contamination in the well.
So you say we did the testing, but who is the specific company who did the testing?
Are you talking about the recent testing that found the contamination?
Yes.
Well, this has been managed by Foth, who does our consulting work. And the work itself was CTW, so they've been doing like the initial phase that happened a month or so ago. So they have some knowledge of the project, and that's why we're asking them to put this proposal forward and continue with the project. There's also a couple water scientists that have worked with Foth on the project to come up with the scope of services. So this isn't something that staff has put together, but they're water quality experts that are looking at.
Yes. So
the
where
solution.
are the water quality experts, I guess? Like, where are they tonight to give the presentation or to give specifics of exactly the levels of what they're finding? I want to see specifics. And until we get those specifics.
Yeah, they're not here tonight.
So do we have any report? And I'm sorry, you really do a crap show with this well. And I know it's not your fault, and I know you weren't here from the beginning of it. So I know this is not on you, and this is not directed on you. But where are those experts right now? And where are those reports? Where are the specifics? What are the exact?
Yeah, I mean, what I've presented is a summary of the reports. The water quality issues are a range of different conditions that I can't speak on like specifically right now, but they did produce a report after the initial round of investigations. And kind of what I'm presenting here and what the CTW proposal includes is just a response to that report and some of the fact gathering that we need to make the final determination.
And I completely see where you're coming from on that, but where are the people who put the report together that they should be here tonight answering these questions? You shouldn't have to summarize this and present it to the board. They should. And we don't have the specifics. We don't have the specifics of the levels. We're asking you to summarize a report, which you're not a water expert. But we should have the water experts here, the ones that put the report together, to tell us exactly what is going on and exactly why we need to spend this additional money. Right now, I feel like this is uncalled for and premature. Not on you again, but they should be here. And I'm looking at the audience right now, and it's pretty much empty.
An oversight on my part. I apologize for that.
It was,
I think.
but I would like to postpone this until they are here to answer more questions, because this well has been a source of controversy in the board for years since we even agreed to move forward with this.
Are you making a motion or just a statement?
I'm making a statement, but okay. I would like to, I can't make a motion because there's a motion on the table already. And
Make
I
a
don't want
motion
to
to
amend.
postpone or table?
Well, but there's a motion on the table. Say, Jack, am I allowed to make a motion when there's a motion on the table to postpone?
The exact technical answer is it depends on the motion you want to make, but a motion to table is certainly always available, even when there is another motion pending.
With
And to table this and to have the water experts available to answer questions.
What are you looking to get? I mean, we basically have the information from the studies that they've made. It's been put to
Okay,
our
summarize it
water
for us then.
superintendent, Mr. Hogan. It's at a level that needs to be addressed and see where we can possibly run the well without having these issues by seeing if there's enough production on the bottom. I mean, that's what you're actually paying for, is a study to see if we have enough coming from one area rather than 3 areas. And knowing that if we have 3 areas, there's a possible issue with contamination, one that we've seen already and possibly in the future
President Wilson.
based on where it's coming from. So with that, the recommendation from the water utility and from the Director of Public Works is to see if we can get it from one source instead of 3 sources on this well.
Okay.
To get the technicalities of why or exactly what it is, it doesn't matter. It is. It is.
really?
It's an
It
issue. So
doesn't
how do
matter
we
what
want to deal with it and what do we
contaminants
want to
are-
do about it?
It doesn't matter what contaminant.
Are you an
Matter?
expert to determine what is safe and what is not safe?
Exactly. You make my point right there. You are not an director.
Mr. Hogan is. Our
He's an
superintendent of the water utility is an expert.
He's a water expert.
Yes, he's a water expert. That is what his training is. That's why he works for us.
Exactly. What are they? Contaminants. What are they?
the water quality issues are all related to naturally occurring types of contaminations, and kind of use that loosely because there are conditions that exist in other places, including our other wells. But I think if Trustee Pieper, you and others are interested in additional information, then that's information that we could make available at a future Public Works and Highway Committee meeting. I think if this had gone through the regular, if this had gone through the regular path of approval there, it's probably more likely that we would have had those experts speak at that level. But they certainly could be made available.
President. Contaminants, exactly. What contaminants? What are the materials that are in the water contaminating it?
Yeah, I don't have the answers right now. So if that's information that the board requires, then we can bring this item back and include the report, and you can have all the technical information that's available there.
What compared to our other wells of these contaminants that are found in the other wells?
If I can, if it's okay, Mr. President, if I can just interject and I definitely appreciate Trustee Pieper's concerns and questions and wanting to know more of the details. And I also apologize we didn't have the right folks in the room here today. Having said that, the reason that we did put this directly on and that we looked at getting a special Public Works Committee meeting together before this meeting to move this along as quickly as possible is that before the experts can answer all of the questions that I think Trustee Pieper has, and I'm sure other trustees have, some of these initial next steps are things that they need to do. And we are trying to maintain the construction schedule. As the Public Works Director mentioned, we've had a lot of delays in this, and we have reason to believe that the delays have contributed to some of the contamination. So we're trying to get this project, up and moving again. And, I would suggest and recommend that, if the village board is willing to allow work to continue on this, that at the next village board meeting, we will have the experts here to do a thorough presentation and answer any questions. And the contract that the Public Works Director presented here has multiple tasks and phases. And if the village board hears at that meeting that, you think this is something you don't want to continue to move forward with, then you can direct work to stop at that point and we can discontinue. I'll also just kind of say, I think that's an option. A well is an expensive and complicated project to move forward. We ran into a hiccup here. The decision to go to 400 feet instead of 1,200 was not a hiccup. That was a good thing. That was a good surprise and a benefit to us. So it was not a negative. This is something that, we didn't anticipate, and it is a hiccup, but it's something that is solvable through, a multiple different, options. And it's just kind of determining which one is the best option. So, my recommendation to the board, and, we'll go whichever way the board wants to go, but if you are willing to approve this, we will continue work and we'll be back at the July 1st meeting with the right folks in the room to answer all of the questions that people have.
I understand all of that. So we've reached a hiccup, but nobody can exactly explain what the hiccup is. That's my problem. What is the exact hiccup? So they want to do more testing, but nobody can tell me the exact levels or anything of why we need to do more testing. What is the exact hiccup? What are the exact levels? Why do we need to do more testing?
At a real basic level, the issues are that the water quality from the 3 different fractures that are active in this well are kind of combining to create that biofilm that we've talked about. And that reduced the production in the well when we went back to do some state required testing a couple months ago. Noticed the decreased production, we noticed the biofilm, and that kind of started this process moving in terms of identifying a way to clean the well, either chemically or mechanically or both. And then come up with a treatment plan for the immediate future and then long-term once the well house is constructed.
So we're asking this well to produce. Where is the water going?
It's just part of the system. I mean, once it's in the tower and going down through the water service lines, it's just part of the system. So it's
Right now, it's going nowhere.
correct.
This well,
It's
so
capped.
this well producing, correct?
It's capped.
Okay. Water going just back
Nowhere.
into
It's
our
capped. It
system,
doesn't go
going into
anywhere.
the
When the well is capped, it goes nowhere.
So then what?
Correct, but in order for it to be progressing with the tower and the progression of getting the well online, you have to make sure the water it's producing is safe for consumption. Right now, based on the tests that they have, it's not safe for consumption, and they're trying to find a way in which they can resolve it by either shutting down the 2 shallower cracks and taking it from the bottom only, which would be a better solution for not only the residents in the area, because most of their wells are probably along the depth of that higher fissures that we're taking the water from. And if we can get enough water produced from the bottom and we don't need those other 2, then we'll seal the casing and just draw water off the bottom.
I understand that. I get that. But if the well is capped for right now,
Yeah.
it's not producing anywhere. It's not going anywhere.
No, nowhere. It goes nowhere. Because it can't be released until it passes all its tests and it has all the infrastructure in place to make it part of the system.
So am I able to actually go to this well and watch them test it? I'm no I have my whole kit and everything. Am I able to go along with and watch them test it?
I mean, from a public works perspective, I don't have any issues with that. It's fairly transparent and out in the open anyway.
So
As a trustee, you are able to inspect any part of this village you wish to inspect.
all right. No,
Further discussion in regards to the $92,730. Trustee Pieper, anything else to add?
I just said I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it. I apologize. Further discussion? No. Trustee Warren?
Just real quick, make sure we're voting on the same number. Matt, in the summary, you have 92,730. In your recommendation, it's 92,497. So just so we're dealing with the same number here.
So there's a discrepancy between,
What's in the agenda sheet, the cover sheet?
Yeah. And what's in the staff recommendation total? It's not a big amount, but just so we're dealing with the same dollar amount here.
yeah, I'd have to add those up again to see where potentially the mistake was, but ultimately, yeah, we're looking for award of the project through phase 5, potentially, the portion with the liner at the bottom. We're not entertaining at this time, though that may be entertained at some point in the future. And, you know, once this gets approved, we would release them initially for phases 0 and 1. But so
maximum amount allowed that we're approving is 92,730, and it could come in less.
not to exceed. Yeah.
Correct. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Cutts,
Aye.
trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Jan Miller,
Aye.
trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Pieper,
No.
Village President Walter.
Motion passes. Next item under new business is item I, an ordinance to opt out of the extended closing hours for alcohol beverage licensed premises during the 2024 Republican National Convention.
Make a motion to approve item I as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve?
Didn't we already discuss this and pass this last village board meeting?
No, we did that at
Public safety.
public safety.
Okay.
Further discussion? Everybody understands the ordinance? Very good. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. Next item under new business is item J, approved bid award for the 2024 annual road program Maple Road LRIP project to Stark Paving Corp. of Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the amount of $417,893.50.
So in May of this year, we received 50% matching grant from LRIP from the state for the reconstruction of Maple Road. We put the project out to bid and received these bids. You can see the results there with 3 bidders and a fairly close range, especially if you look at the top 2. We're asking for the award of the contract in that amount. And then with the understanding that 50% of this would be reimbursed by the state. Total project cost eligible for reimbursement by the DOT is $232,500. And with this award, that would fully allocate the 2024 road program funding.
Move approval of the bid to award the 2024 annual road program for Maple Road
I'll second. Sorry.
for $417,893.50. 50 cents. Get that in the note.
To exceed.
Not exceed.
I will second.
Further discussion on a motion to approve? No further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Ketz,
Aye.
trustee Baum,
Aye.
trustee Jen Miller,
Aye.
trustee Rick Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Peeper,
Aye.
village president Walter.
Aye. Motion passes. Takes care of all items listed on tonight's new business and on all items listed on the agenda. Before we adjourn, the next village board meeting would be on July 1st. Correct? Madam Clerk? At 7 PM here at the Village Hall Boardroom. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to make? Oh, we did that already. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching, and have a good night.
I'll be right back.